The Cammus C12 is here! Can you drop your Logitech or Thrustmaster plans? Find out right here, right now! Welcome! You're watching Rum, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing and a regular review of any sim racing product that could interest you. Thanks to all those who come here often, especially those who subscribe, and even more, our patrons. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. Cammus' promise is that of an affordable 12 Nm wheel that even sim racing beginners can use, as it can be added to your desk through a clamp at a price lower than Logitech's or Thrustmaster's offers, and a price that also makes life difficult for fanatic. Do Cammus keep this promise? Well, it's complicated. We'll give you reasons why you would want the wheel and reasons why not. You decide. Come with me and let's find out together. Let's first talk about the wheelbase. The interesting thing Cammus already did with their C5 and are now repeating in the C12 is that the wheelbase is the wheel. All this round thing has the motor in it. Instead of having a motor in a block like the other companies, Cammus went a completely new way with their C line of wheels. That makes the base quite flat and therefore easy to set up on a desk. For that, Cammus delivers a clamp system, which by the way is the same for the C5 and C12. By all means, you can also add the clamp to your base. As the C12 comes with a fan to cool down the system that does not fit the base, but does fit the clamp, you'll end up wanting or even needing to buy the clamp when buying the wheel. All in all, we recommend getting the clamp even if you are adding the C12 to a rig, as the clamp also stabilizes the wheel better and evens out the load of the 12 Nm over a bigger area. It's easy to affix to a rig and it uses a standard pattern, unlike the 15mm DD which needed an adapter. Although in our test we didn't get the impression the wheel was getting too hot, we expect Cammus to deliver the fan for a reason, as other products by Cammus like the LP8 do seem to have some heat issues. At least that's what we've heard, as we ourselves have not had any heat issues at all with their products. We tested the C12 mostly on a desk to find out if it would be a good idea and recommendable to do so. 12 Nm torque are nothing to be sneezed at, and while my rig would eat up those and even more, I was not sure my desk, made of a 1.5 cm thick chipboard, would withstand it. I also wanted to find out if any vibrations would make the desk vibrate too, and therefore throw everything around. Moving from clamp and desk, you can add different rims to the C12, as the rim can be easily separated with an Allen key. Not the button box though, so watch out when buying other rims. Check that their design is compatible with the way the buttons are set up. And unluckily, Cammus have left a small bump in the middle of the wheel, making it so you'll need some small elevation in your rim. The bump is small at 2mm, but if the rim of choice is completely flat, it won't be compatible. The bump seems to be a screw that is too long. A strange issue considering the normally excellent engineering Cammus delivers. Speaking of buttons, the C12 brings with it a lot of them, which is great. 2 thumb rotaries you can press, 4 rotary buttons, 2 at the top made of plastic and 2 different ones at the bottom made of metal, 4 other buttons at the top and 6 at the bottom, plus a funky switch and a 4-way switch. Of course, it brings 2 shift paddles made of carbon fiber. While the shift paddles are not adjustable, I had no issues whatsoever shifting gears, even considering the rim is 300mm in diameter. Yes, I have big hands, but even people with smaller hands should not have any issues. Added to that, it brings an LED display as well as rev and shift lights. The build quality looks very good, all very stable and made of aluminium. At the back of the wheel there are 2 USB-C connectors that seem only to work with Cammus hardware. At least the non-Cammus pedals and shifter we added to it did not work, and the hardware was not recognized by the PC until we connected it directly to the PC. Below those, you'll find the power connector for the fan, the USB Type B connector to connect the C12 to your PC, and the power cable to get the needed power through this brick of a transformer to the base. Below that are the power and reset buttons. It's all a bit finicky to connect once the base is on the clamp, and why the base connects through USB-B to the computer while it connects through USB-C to other Cammus peripherals is a mystery. Putting the clamp together was a bit of a hassle, especially as the tools delivered by Cammus were not up to the engineering standard Cammus has us accustomed to. The screwdriver was unusable from the start, and the Allen key, while usable, was in my opinion too small for the job, but the latter is a matter of opinion. Also, I was not able to get the feet affixed to the metal stops of the clamp permanently. They kept falling off and I had to fiddle with them when adding the wheel to my desk. The clamp is definitely not one of the most stellar moments in the Cammus product design. That said, once you have everything in place, which can take you a couple of tries, everything looks quite unmovable and strong. I say a couple of tries because I even attached the wheelbase the wrong way round to the clamp, which I noticed as soon as I started the first sim. Oh well, only took me 15 minutes to correct that error. The Cammus software recognized the wheel and wheelbase quickly, noticed I had an old version of the firmware and performed an update after asking. That went with no issues. What took me more time was to convince the sims to work together with the C12. These may not have anything to do with Cammus and more to do with inflexibility on the part of the sim makers. Or it has to do with Cammus because their drivers don't play nice. I don't have enough knowledge of these things to be able to say. Whatever your sim or sims of preference are, be prepared to have to set up the C12 within the sim and to have to take a while to do so. No sim was invincible, but some resisted more than others. Assetto Corsa Competizione went smoothly, Automobilista 2 had some moments, R Factor 2 was impossible, but it's been misbehaving with my Simulcube 2 for a long while. Wreckfest was a hassle, and while Dakar Desert Rally was easy, the results were quite unusable, but I'm sure this is on DDR. I know that was a lot to take in before we got into the proper test, but I think you should know this is not plug and play, that you will have to work for it. There are different reasons why this is the way it is, but it will take you some time to set up everything and to set up right so you can start driving with the C12. So I finally got to test the wheel and drove around in Wreckfest, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Automobilista 2 and Dakar Desert Rally. The experiences were very different to each other. On Wreckfest the wheel exerted very strong forces, which made me turn the force feedback down quite strongly. There was almost no feel of the track and absolutely no feel of what the tires were doing. Having driven Wreckfest also on other wheel systems, including my Simulcube, let me tell you, this is not normal. While Wreckfest of course does not have the level of force feedback a racing sim has, on a good system you really can feel what the tires are doing. On Assetto Corsa Competizione I again had to turn down the wheel's forces, and again the force feedback was rather basic. I was able to feel the difference between tarmac and gravel slightly, but got no detailed information from the tires. The feeling in the wheel when driving over gravel felt programmed and robotic. On Automobilista 2 I had to turn the force feedback up from the settings I normally use on Simulcube. Lo and behold, the information from the tires was more precise, but the differences between tarmac and gravel were not really there. Automobilista 2 has possibly got the most complex force feedback out there, so maybe the C12 needs a lot of information to transmit the force feedback correctly, but all in all all, I gotta say the force feedback from the C12 out of the box was disappointing. While I think it has more to do with the firmware rather than from the way the motor relays the forces, I can't say for sure. The force feedback on the C12 does not reach the quality and precision Cammus had already shown in the 15 Nm wheel or the LP8. And as the C5, which uses similar technology, is quite good regarding force feedback, we tend to the opinion it's not the technology that is the issue here, but rather the firmware. The buttons felt okay-ish, the thumb rotaries are acceptable to us, but pressing them is not something you'll do often. I suppose you get what you pay for is the right sentence here. We've experienced better buttons, but the price for the rim alone was double that of this whole system. And yes, you can add the wheel to your desk without destroying your desk or throwing everything on it in disarray, but the clamp sure needs some refinement in the product design, as it's not up to the standard Cammus has us accustomed to. A quick back of the envelope calculation puts the price for wheel and clamp at 528 USD or Euro. Add to this some shipping. As Cammus now has warehouses in the EU and the US, you may be able to skip the taxes, which is great news. Right now you can pre-order the wheel for 50 Euro USD and pay the full price once it's ready for shipping. And if you use the code ROMROM on checkout or use the link in our description, you will get a discount of 5% and we will get a tiny bit of money. At that price, and if you are only interested in the centering forces and how strongly you have to fight the wheel, this is an excellent proposition, especially if you are thinking of putting it on your desk. But the lack of detail from the force feedback is a downer. After enjoying the 15 Nm and the LP8, we were hoping Cammus had been able to reproduce that level of detail also on the C12. We hope newer versions of the firmware will add better detail, but of course we don't know what the future brings. For now, the C12 delivers 12 Nm of torque for your desk or rig at a very low price, but not more than that.